cardiopulmonary resuscitation. You know it as CPR. And for a lot of us, those three letters kind of conjure up this image of a super complex medical thing, right? But what if we thought about it differently? What if it's not some complicated procedure, but just a powerful, simple action that pretty much anyone can learn? Let's get into why that's not just possible, but actually really essential. To really get why this matters so much, you have to start with the sheer scale of the problem. Just look at this number. Every single year, in the US alone, over 350,000 people have a cardiac arrest outside of a hospital. I mean, that's not just a big number, that's an absolutely staggering one. It really sets the stage for what is, no joke, a massive public health crisis. So when you hear a number that huge, what do you picture? Probably, an emergency in a public place. A shopping mall, maybe an airport, some busy street corner. But the actual data, well, it tells a much, much more personal story. And here's the answer to that question. And it is pretty surprising. Almost 3/4 of all of these cardiac arrests happen at home. Just let that sink in for a second. The person you are most likely going to need to help isn't a stranger on the street. It's your partner, your parent, your child, a friend. And that one fact, well, it changes everything. But here's the good news. There is a clear, proven plan to deal with this. It's called the chain of survival. Think of it as a step-by-step playbook of critical actions that can dramatically, and I mean dramatically, increase the chance of someone surviving. The whole thing is broken down into these 6 key links, but I want you to look really closely at the first 3. Activating emergency response. That's calling 911. Starting high-quality CPR right away. And using a defibrillator. You see, these first absolutely crucial steps, they don't happen in an ambulance. They don't happen in a hospital. They happen right there, on the floor, and they depend completely on a bystander, on you. So let's really zero in on that second link, CPR. It's the action that literally bridges the gap between that 911 call and the paramedics showing up. And here's the cool part. Over the years, what we know about CPR has evolved, and it's led to a version that's way simpler and even more powerful than ever before. For a bystander, it basically boils down to 2 main approaches. You've got conventional CPR, that's the one most of us probably learned, with the chest compressions and the rescue breaths. And then you have hands-only CPR, and it's exactly what it sounds like, just chest compressions, non-stop. So the big question is, which one is actually better when it really counts? Now, you might be thinking, well, doing more has to be better, right? The breaths plus the compressions, that's gotta be it. But the science? Well, it points in a really clear and honestly a pretty surprising direction. So what does the science actually say? Well, a huge meta-analysis. That's where they combine all the best clinical trials, basically the gold standard of evidence. They came to this really powerful conclusion. For bystanders like us, this simpler compression-only method isn't just as good, it's actually superior. Okay, so why is less more here? It actually comes down to a few really straightforward reasons. First, people are just more willing to do it. It takes away that hesitation some people feel about mouth to mouth. Second, let's be honest, rescue breaths from untrained folks are often not done very well. But the most important reason, it gets rid of the pauses. Every single time you stop pushing on the chest to give a breath, that critical blood flow to the brain, it just stops. Continuous compressions keep that pump going. All right, so if the technique is simple and we know it's effective, what's stopping people from jumping in? Well, it usually comes down to some very real, very understandable fears. So let's just tackle the 2 biggest ones head on with the actual facts. This is the number 1 worry, no question. In the heat of the moment, the fear that you're going to cause an injury, that you're going to break a rib, that fear can be absolutely paralyzing. Let's just be completely direct about the reality here. To work, CPR has to be forceful, and yeah, sometimes ribs can break. But here's the crucial perspective you have to have. A broken rib will heal. Without CPR, that person will die. When you weigh a possible injury against a certain death, the choice is pretty clear. You cannot possibly make the situation worse. And here's the second big fear, the legal one. What if something goes wrong? Could I actually get sued just for trying to help someone? Fortunately, the law is absolutely on your side here. They're called Good Samaritan laws, and they exist everywhere for one reason, to encourage people just like you to help. As long as you are acting in good faith and trying your best to save a life, you're protected. Breaking a rib while doing CPR is exactly the kind of thing these laws were made to cover. So let's wrap this all up with the one number that really matters most. When a bystander gives CPR right away, it can double or even triple a person's chance of survival. Think about that. In that critical moment, when every second counts, your two hands are the most powerful medical tool in the entire world. The real question isn't whether you might hurt them, it's whether you're willing to give them their only chance to live.